Welcome to our deep dive on the incredible story of Maruti Suzuki.
Yeah,
You know them as a car company, but their impact on India
right.
goes way beyond that.
Oh, yeah.
You've got tons of research here,
Yeah,
and we're going to unpack how Maruti Suzuki changed the entire landscape,
for sure.
economically, culturally, even on a personal level for so many.
What's fascinating is it's hard to separate their journey from the journey of India itself over the past few decades.
Right.
We're talking about a period where India was still finding its industrial identity,
Hmm.
transitioning from a closed economy
Okay.
and trying to embrace globalization.
Yeah.
And Maruti Suzuki is right in the middle of that story.
Yeah. Let's set the stage.
Hmm.
Picture India in the 1970s. Most families didn't own cars.
Right.
The ones on the road were old models, and you'd have to wait years to get one.
Absolutely.
It was in this environment that this idea for Maruti Suzuki was born, and it all started with a dream, a vision for a people's car.
It was Sanjay Gandhi, the son of then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, who really championed this idea.
Okay.
He wanted to create an affordable Indian-made car that would put the nation on wheels,
Right.
a car for the everyday person.
Yeah.
Think about how bold that was for that time.
It is huge.
It wasn't just about making cars, it was about transforming society.
Yeah. But of course, this is happening during a pretty turbulent time in Indian politics.
Oh, for sure?
The emergency was declared.
Yeah.
Sanjay Gandhi's influence was growing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Maruti project, while still in its early stages, was given a lot of government backing.
Yeah, and that political context is really important to understand.
Yeah.
The first Maruti prototype was actually unveiled in 1975,
Okay.
but Sanjay Gandhi's unexpected death in 1980 threw everything into uncertainty.
Right.
And that's when I think, to really show their commitment to
Yeah.
this people's car, they nationalized the company.
Right.
Maruti Udyog Limited, MUL for short, was established in 1981 with a clear mandate: make this dream of an affordable modern car a reality.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
Yeah,
India's auto industry at that time just wasn't equipped for that kind of challenge at all.
totally.
They lacked the technical know-how, the modern manufacturing processes, the whole mindset needed to really pull this off.
Yeah.
So they made a decision that would change everything.
Yeah.
They decided to look for a foreign partner.
Can you imagine,
Yeah.
after decades of promoting self-reliance,
Right.
the Indian government essentially saying, we need help to build our dream?
Yeah. I mean,
That's huge.
this was a major turning point. It was a recognition that collaboration
Yeah.
could be just as important as self-sufficiency.
Yeah, and a big shift in thinking.
Absolutely.
And they weren't looking for just any partner.
Right.
They needed a company with the right technology,
Mhm.
a car model that fit India's needs.
Yeah.
And most importantly, a willingness to share knowledge
Yeah.
and empower India's own capabilities.
Yeah.
This wasn't about just getting a car on the market.
Right.
It was about building an entire industry.
So the search begins.
Yeah.
Proposals are coming in from all the big names.
Mm.
But one company stood out, Suzuki from Japan.
Suzuki's compact, fuel-efficient Alto model
Okay.
was a perfect match for India.
Right.
But beyond the car itself,
Mm-hmm.
Suzuki was ready to go all in on a real partnership.
Yeah.
They weren't just interested in selling cars, they were invested in transferring their expertise and helping
Yeah.
to build an entire ecosystem from the ground up.
Yeah, this wasn't just a business deal. This was a major cultural exchange.
Oh, yeah.
Indian engineers and managers were sent to train in Japan,
Wow.
immersing themselves in Suzuki's manufacturing philosophy.
Huge.
It must have been an eye-opening experience for them,
Absolutely.
stepping into this completely different world.
Right.
Industrial practices and management styles.
It was transformative.
Yeah.
And not just on a technical level.
Right.
They were introduced to concepts like just-in-time inventory,
Oh.
which basically means having the right parts delivered exactly when they're needed.
Right.
Eliminating waste, streamlining the whole production process.
Right, yeah.
They learned about quality circles, where workers on the factory floor are empowered to identify problems and then solve them.
Right.
So these ideas weren't just about efficiency, they were about changing the culture of manufacturing,
Right.
giving workers a sense of ownership and pride in their work.
Yeah, and these individuals, the engineers and managers, were
Yeah.
trained in Japan. They went on to become, I mean, key players
For sure.
in shaping India's entire industrial landscape.
Right.
They brought back those ideas,
Mhm.
that spirit of efficiency and collaboration,
Totally.
and it rippled out to other industries.
Yeah.
Then you have the launch of the Maruti 800 in December of 1983,
Oh, yeah.
a watershed moment.
It really was.
This wasn't a flashy car.
Yeah.
It was simple, practical, affordable, reliable, fuel efficient, exactly what India needed at the time.
Absolutely.
Think about it.
Yeah.
This is a period when most Indians had only ever seen two-wheelers on the roads,
Right.
and suddenly car ownership was within reach, not just for the elite, but for this rapidly growing middle class.
You can almost feel the shift in aspirations.
Yeah.
You know, this little car represented progress, upward mobility, a sense of possibility.
Right.
It wasn't just transportation, it was a statement.
Yeah. And it went beyond just the car itself.
For sure.
Maruti, with Suzuki's guidance,
Yeah.
building this network of high-quality component suppliers.
That's right.
Before this, India didn't really have a robust supplier ecosystem.
Right.
For the auto industry, this was game-changing, not just for Maruti,
Totally.
but for the entire manufacturing landscape.
It was like planting seeds,
Yeah.
creating a whole new ecosystem,
Yeah.
setting new standards.
It forced other industries to up their game,
Total.
to adapt, to innovate. This was a revolution on wheels. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, it really was.
But the story, obviously, doesn't end there.
Right.
As India entered the 1990s, a new era dawned, liberalization. The economy opens up, global giants enter the market.
Right.
And suddenly Maruti Suzuki faced this whole new set of challenges.
Right. So here's where their resilience was truly tested.
Yeah.
They had achieved this incredible success in a relatively protected market.
Right.
Now they had to compete on a global stage.
Yeah.
How did they respond to this sudden influx of competition, this new wave of players bringing their own expertise and ambitions?
That's what we're going to find out in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
Stick with us because the story only gets more interesting from here.
Oh, absolutely.
So we left off with India's economy opening up and the auto market becoming way more crowded.
Oh, yeah.
Global players like Hyundai and Kia were coming in with, all these sleek designs and features that Indian customers had never seen before.
Imagine being at the top of your game and then the rules change, you know?
Yeah.
Maruti Suzuki had enjoyed this immense success, but now they were facing rivals
Right.
who had years of experience in global markets,
Yeah.
rivals that were hungry for a piece of this
Right.
rapidly growing Indian pie.
Right.
It forced them to reevaluate everything, their products, their strategies, their identity, really.
It must have been a real wake-up call.
It was.
A moment of truth. I mean,
Yeah.
did they panic?
Right.
Did they try to stick to the old playbook?
Yeah.
Or did they really embrace this challenge and adapt?
They chose to adapt.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that makes their story so remarkable.
Okay.
They didn't rest on their laurels. They recognized the need to evolve.
Okay.
One of the key moves was the launch of Nexus showrooms in 2015.
Okay.
These weren't your typical Maruti dealerships.
Right.
These were designed to cater to a more discerning customer.
Yeah.
Someone who was willing to pay a premium for a more sophisticated experience.
Yeah. I remember when Nexus showrooms first started popping up,
Yeah.
they had a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
Almost like stepping into a luxury boutique.
That's right.
Sleek interiors, modern displays, a more personalized approach to customer service.
Totally.
It was clear that Maruti Suzuki was trying to shed that image
Right.
of just a maker of budget cars.
Yeah.
And position itself as a brand that could compete in that premium segment.
Yeah, it was a very savvy move.
Right.
I think they understood that the Indian market was maturing.
Yeah.
Aspirations were rising.
Yeah.
And this growing segment of customers was looking for something more.
More than basic transportation.
Exactly. They wanted a car that reflected their success,
Yeah.
their style, their aspirations.
Yeah.
Models like the S-Cross, Baleno, and Ciaz,
Okay.
launched under the Nexa banner,
Yeah.
really embodied this shift.
But it wasn't just about fancy showrooms.
No, absolutely not.
Right. The cars themselves had to evolve too.
Right.
What kind of changes did they make to their product development to meet these new challenges?
Well, they started paying a lot more attention to design.
Okay.
Gone were the boxy utilitarian shapes of the past.
Right.
They embraced more contemporary styling, incorporating, sleeker lines, more aerodynamic profiles, bolder accents.
Yeah.
They also upped their game in terms of features,
Right.
adding things like touchscreen infotainment systems,
Right.
rear view cameras, even sunroofs,
Yeah.
features that were previously unheard of. in Maruti Suzuki cars.
So essentially, they were trying to elevate that whole ownership experience.
Yes.
Bring in elements of luxury and technology that were previously reserved for higher-end brands.
Yeah, but did they manage to hold on to their reputation for affordability?
Yeah, I mean,
while making these upgrades.
adding all these bells and whistles usually comes with a price tag.
Absolutely it does, but that's the remarkable thing. Yeah.
They managed to strike a balance.
Okay.
They continued to offer models that catered to the value-conscious buyer.
Right.
But they also expanded their range to include more premium options.
Yeah.
They were covering all the bases.
Right.
Appealing to a wider spectrum of customers.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You can't alienate your core customer base.
Right.
But you also have to evolve with the market.
Exactly.
It's a delicate balance.
It really is.
But then there was this other massive shift happening
Oh, yeah.
in the auto industry at this time
Right.
that presented a unique challenge
Yeah.
to Maruti Suzuki. We're talking about the rise of SUVs
For sure.
all around the world,
Yeah.
and especially in India.
Yeah.
You know, customer preferences were moving away from those traditional hatchbacks and sedans.
Right.
How did Maruti Suzuki, a company primarily known for their small cars,
Yeah.
navigate this SUV wave?
This was a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
SUVs were becoming, the hot new thing.
Yeah. Symbolizing adventure, capability, a certain status.
Right.
Maruti Suzuki couldn't ignore this trend.
Right.
But they couldn't just jump on the bandwagon either.
Right.
They had this reputation.
Yeah.
They had a legacy built on fuel efficiency and affordability. So they had to approach it strategically, carefully considering how to enter this segment without compromising their core values.
And it sounds like they were at a crossroads.
They were.
I mean, did they try to force that existing small car expertise into this SUV segment?
Right.
Or did they acknowledge that they needed a fresh perspective?
They realized that this was a different game altogether.
Okay.
And their first major foray into the compact SUV segment came with the launch of the Vitara Brezza in 2016.
Okay.
And it was a game changer.
Yeah.
It was stylish. It was spacious.
Yeah.
It had that rugged appeal of an SUV, but it was still unmistakably a Maruti Suzuki.
Yeah.
Fuel efficient, reliable, and affordably priced.
The Vitara Brezza really captured the zeitgeist, didn't it?
It did.
I mean, it seemed like it was everywhere you looked.
It really did.
But SUVs are generally less fuel efficient than smaller cars, given their size and weight.
Yeah.
Did Maruti Suzuki compromise on that commitment to fuel efficiency?
That's right.
A value they had held for so long?
They did not. They stuck to their guns.
Okay.
They knew that for the Indian customer, fuel efficiency wasn't just a nice to have, it was a necessity.
Right.
So they made sure that even their SUVs were designed with fuel economy in mind.
Okay.
They introduced mild hybrid technology in some models, which helped to boost mileage.
Yeah.
It was a clever way to cater to the demand for SUVs without alienating their core customer base.
Sticking to the principles.
Yeah.
Even as they were venturing into uncharted territory.
For sure.
It's impressive, but we were talking about a lot of changes happening in this era.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most significant one was the global push towards cleaner, greener technologies. Emission norms were getting stricter.
Yeah.
Alternative fuels were starting to gain traction.
Right.
How did Maruti Suzuki adapt to this changing landscape?
Well, this is where they made a bold and somewhat unexpected decision.
Okay.
India was transitioning to stricter BS-VI emission norms, which meant that upgrading diesel engines to meet these standards was going to be very expensive, especially for smaller cars.
Right.
So Maruti Suzuki did something that a lot of people didn't see coming.
Okay.
They decided to phase out diesel engines entirely from their lineup.
Wow, that must have been a tough call.
It was a big one.
Yeah, I mean, diesel had been a major part of their sales for years.
Yeah.
So what did they replace it with?
Right.
I mean, were they ready to embrace that electric revolution that everyone was talking about?
Well, they doubled down on petrol engines, making them even more efficient.
But they also made a strategic bet on CNG as a more affordable and cleaner alternative to diesel.
Yeah.
They already had experience with CNG models. And they recognized its potential in a cost-sensitive market like India. where CNG was readily available
Right.
in many parts of the country.
It was a very pragmatic move,
Right.
Leveraging the existing infrastructure and technology to offer a viable alternative.
Absolutely.
But what about electric vehicles?
Right.
I mean, everyone was talking about this EV revolution.
Totally.
But Maruti Suzuki seemed to be taking a much more cautious approach.
Yeah.
Were they missing the boat? Or did they have a different strategy in mind?
They weren't ignoring the EV trend, but they were being deliberate.
Okay.
They understood that India's energy landscape was complex, that different regions had different needs.
Right.
They didn't want to jump on the EV bandwagon just because it was the trendy thing to do. They wanted to make sure that when they did enter the EV market, they would do it right with a product tailored to the specific needs of the Indian customer.
Okay.
So while they were working behind the scenes on EV technology, they were also focusing on other aspects of the future of mobility, like connected car technology.
Right.
They introduced Suzuki Connect,
Okay.
a telematics system that offered features like vehicle tracking, remote diagnostics, and emergency assistance.
So they were thinking beyond just the powertrain.
Absolutely.
Looking at the bigger picture of how technology was changing the way we interact with our cars.
Clearly.
It's like the car was becoming an extension of our digital lives.
Yes.
A connected hub on wheels. But amidst all this technological advancement, did they lose sight of those core values?
Right.
Affordability, accessibility, the people's car philosophy.
Or did they manage to integrate these values into their vision for the future?
Well, that's the question we're going to explore as we move into the final part of our deep dive. Stick with us as we look at what lies ahead for Maruti Suzuki. How will they navigate this ever-evolving landscape of the automotive industry? What innovations and strategies will shape their future?
I mean, we've covered a lot of ground so far.
We have.
From a vision for a people's car in the 1970s to navigating globalization and technological shifts. Maruti Suzuki's journey has been quite a ride.
It really has.
But as we look ahead, the automotive industry is on the verge of another massive transformation.
Absolutely.
Driven by electrification, automation, and connectivity.
Right.
Feels like we're at the cusp of a whole new era of mobility.
Yeah.
And the stakes are higher than ever.
It's an exciting time, full of possibilities, but also uncertainty.
Right.
You know, the rules of the game are changing.
Yeah.
Companies that fail to adapt risk being left behind.
Right.
And for Maruti Suzuki, the challenge is to leverage its strengths while embracing these new technologies and trends, all while staying true to those core values of affordability and accessibility.
Right. They've always been about offering value to the Indian customer. But now they need to do that in a world where the definition of value itself is changing.
That's right.
So as they navigate this new landscape, what are some of the key strategies they're focusing on?
One area that's crucial is powertrain diversification.
Okay.
They recognize that India's energy mix is evolving and there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
So they're hedging their bets.
Okay.
Offering a range of options to cater to different needs and preferences.
It's like they're creating a buffet of powertrain choices.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Petrol, CNG, hybrid, and eventually fully electric.
Yeah.
But even as they're exploring these new technologies, they're still refining their petrol engines.
Absolutely.
Making them even more fuel efficient. It's like they're saying, we're not abandoning what we're good at, but we're also preparing for the future.
Exactly.
And their focus on CNG is a smart move.
It is.
Especially in the Indian context.
Yeah.
CNG is a cleaner alternative to petrol and diesel.
Right.
And the infrastructure for it is already well established in many parts of the country.
That's right.
It's a practical solution.
It is.
Especially for customers who are looking for a more affordable and environmentally friendly option.
It makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Especially when you consider the price sensitivity of the Indian market.
Right. But of course, the big question is, when are they going to go all in on electric vehicles?
Right.
I mean, they've been relatively cautious so far.
They have.
But they can't ignore this trend forever, can they?
Well, they're certainly not ignoring it. They've made it clear that EVs are a part of their long-term strategy.
Okay.
But their approach is more measured than some of their competitors.
Okay.
They're not rushing to launch an EV just to be seen as being part of the trend. They're taking their time to develop a product that's specifically designed for the Indian market, taking into account factors like affordability range, charging infrastructure, even the climate.
Yeah, it's a reminder that technology is only one part of the equation.
Exactly.
You have to consider that entire ecosystem, the infrastructure, the customer experience, and the overall value proposition.
Absolutely. And while they're working on EVs, they're also investing in other technologies that are shaping the future of mobility. Connectivity is a huge area of focus. They've already introduced, as we said, their Suzuki Connect telematics system, but they're going even further, integrating more smart features into their cars. Think advanced driver assistance systems. Personalized in-car experiences, seamless integration with smartphones, and other devices.
It's like the car is becoming an extension of our digital lives.
It is.
I mean, we're used to having instant access to information, entertainment, and connectivity in other aspects of our lives. And now that's extending to our vehicles as well.
Absolutely.
But with all this talk of technology, are they forgetting about the human element?
That's right.
What about the people who are buying and driving these cars? How is Maruti Suzuki adapting to the changing expectations of customers, especially the younger generation?
I think they're realizing that the car buying experience itself needs to evolve. The younger generation is tech savvy. They value convenience and personalization. They're not afraid to shop around. So Maruti Suzuki is embracing digitalization across the board. They're offering online sales platforms.
Virtual showrooms. Personalized online configurations. They're trying to make that entire process from research to purchase as seamless and enjoyable as possible.
It's like they're borrowing from the playbook of e-commerce giants.
They are.
Recognizing that customers are used to a certain level of convenience and personalization in their online interactions.
For sure.
But it's not just about the purchase. It's about the ownership experience as well.
Exactly.
How are they using technology to improve the experience of owning and maintaining a Maruti Suzuki?
Well, they're leveraging data and analytics to offer proactive maintenance reminders. Personalized service recommendations, and even predictive diagnostics to anticipate potential issues before they arise. It's all about making that ownership experience as hassle-free as possible.
It's fascinating how technology is changing the relationship between the car and the owner.
It is.
It's becoming more personalized.
More interactive, more like a partnership.
That's right.
But amidst all these technological advancements, I keep coming back to that core question. Are they still holding on to their value? Are they still a people's car company? Even as they embrace the future of mobility?
I think that's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And I think the answer is yes. Even as they innovate and evolve, they're still committed to affordability and accessibility. They understand that for a vast majority of Indians, a car is still a significant investment, a symbol of progress and aspiration. So even as they introduce new technologies and features, they're always conscious of keeping their cars within reach of a wide range of buyers.
It's that commitment to their roots, to their core values, that makes their story so compelling.
It does.
I mean, they've managed to navigate some pretty turbulent times.
They have.
Adapting and evolving without losing sight of who they are. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious. What's the one big takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners with? As they ponder the future of Maruti Suzuki?
I would say this. Keep an eye on Maruti Suzuki. They've proven time and again that they're not afraid to challenge the status quo, to disrupt themselves, to really push the boundaries of what's possible. The next chapter of their story is being written right now. And it promises to be just as fascinating and impactful as the ones that have come before.
I mean, they've shown that it's possible to embrace the future without forgetting the past. To be both innovative and grounded.
Absolutely.
To be a global player while staying true to your roots.
It's a story that's still unfolding. A testament to the power of vision, resilience, and a deep understanding of the customer.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
Into the world of Maruti Suzuki. It's been a journey through history, technology, and the human spirit.
It really has.
We hope you've enjoyed the ride.